Hey y'all, today we are going to make several corned beef recipes. If you don't like corned beef, I'm sorry. And I know this is a little bit out of corned beef season, but honestly, in my opinion, every season is corned beef season because it'd be delicious. Okay, so if you've been around for any amount of time, this first little bit is gonna look familiar. I shared this first part in my St. Patrick's Day video. I did not get great footage, but I'm going to share because it is corned beef. I'm going to share my crock pot corned beef recipe. Usually all I do is put my corned beef in my crock pot or Instapot. I just use the slow cooker option. Put my corned beef in the bottom, and then usually I put like 8 carrots and a whole head of cabbage and 4 medium potatoes on top. However, I'm trying not to make a whole bunch of leftovers with this particular one, just because I know we're going to be making all of the other recipes that you're going to see. So I don't really want leftovers of the vegetables, even though we ended up with them anyways. So anyways, that recipe is linked down in the description, as are all of the others, but the specifics of how I would make this to feed, 4+ people with some leftovers, that is linked down in the description. Anyways, so then I just throw all of that in a cup of water, usually into the crock pot, and just, if it's in the crock pot, I would put it on low. If I'm doing it in the Instapot, that's all we have, I put it on just the slow cooker option and just let it cook all day. And it comes out perfectly fine. So while you're watching me cut up a whole bunch of vegetables and slice some meat, I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. If you enjoy this kind of video, like it. If you want to see some kind of specific recipe or you have a request, leave me a comment down below. This is probably one of my favorite foods, corned beef. So I was really excited to put this together. All right, so back to the recipe. Usually whenever I'm cooking this in the crock pot or Instapot, it's being cooked for 8 to 10 hours. I usually just throw it in the morning before I leave for work. And then whenever I get home, it is ready to go. So I usually leave for work at like 7:30 or a little bit before. So I probably started around 7, and then I usually get home right around 5:30. So what is that, 10.5 hours? That's normal. That's like a normal amount of time that I cook it. I just let it sit in there and get all tender and delicious. Corned beef is extremely fatty, so it's really hard to dry it out. Like, it's not something that you can easily dry out. And I only put 1 cup of water in there because as it cooks down and that fat kind of melts, it's going to release a lot of juices. Plus there's, moisture in the vegetables, so they're gonna release some moisture as well. So there's plenty of liquid whenever you get done cooking this corned beef. All right, next up we are going to make Reuben sliders. I have sweet rolls here. That is all my local grocery store had. However, I would recommend you not get sweet rolls. I mean, they didn't taste bad. It's just weird having that sweet flavor. So I would recommend like potato rolls or something a little more on the savory side. Traditionally, a Reuben is made on, rye bread. So something just not sweet rolls. And then you're going to put down a layer of Swiss cheese. Normally I would make, get shredded Swiss cheese or buy a block of Swiss cheese and shred it. But my local grocery store did not have shredded Swiss cheese, and I did not want to drive to the cheese plant. So I just bought their sliced Swiss cheese. Honestly, I use Swiss cheese because that's traditionally what's on a Reuben. However, to me, Swiss cheese is just boring. It has very little flavor. It has like no salt in it. I don't love it. Honestly, I would prefer to use something like provolone, even mozzarella, honestly, I feel like would be better than Swiss cheese, but I use Swiss cheese because that's what's normally served on this. And then you're just going to put a generous amount of corned beef. This is just the leftover corned beef that you saw me slice up just a minute ago. And I'm just putting a good layer of that all over. If you really like corned beef, you can use more. I probably would have used more if I didn't need the extra corned beef to make other recipes. So anyways, yeah, I just put a good helping on there. And then I took some sauerkraut. I just made my general quick kraut, and I have a recipe for that as well. I linked it down in the description, but I did not record it. And I didn't record myself apparently putting sauerkraut onto the Reuben sandwich. But you put sauerkraut over top of your corned beef, just a thin layer to cover it all, and then you put another layer of Swiss cheese. I am just putting, there's like 3 extra pieces of Swiss cheese, and like I said, I don't really love Swiss cheese, so I'm just going to put those 3 pieces on there as well. And then you just put this in an oven at 375, and you're just going to bake it. I think it took like 45 minutes. I usually just keep checking it until the cheese looks really good and melty, honestly. But I think it takes about 45 minutes. So, yeah. And then you get to eat it, and it's delicious. Also, I would like to point out that I did not put, Thousand Island dressing on there. I personally do not like Thousand Island dressing. I think it tastes gross. So I did not put it on the sandwich whenever I was cooking it. I just put it in a bowl on the side, and everyone else in my family ate it but me. I just don't like it. So if you do like it, if everybody in your household likes Thousand Island dressing, you can just put that over the top before you put on your top buns. So anyways, there's that one. Next up, we are going to make a basic corned beef stew. This is pretty much just like, like your crock pot corned beef, but it's made into stew. Like, it's just basic corned beef profile with all the normal vegetables. Simple and delicious. We are going to start out with 3 plain potatoes. You're going to peel. Okay, actually, I would not have peeled these, but I think they were kind of old, so I did peel them. Anyways, you're going to dice up 3 potatoes. If you want to leave the skins on, leave them on. If you don't, peel them. I'm using this Rada peeler, and let me tell you, that thing be sharp. I shaved off a piece of my fingernail while using it, and it has been, I don't know, close to a month since I made this, and my fingernail is just now grown out. So, word to the wise, Rada cutlery is fantastic, but it is also very sharp. So, use with caution. next up, we are going to peel and slice 3 carrots. And then you are going to chop up, I guess, cube up, dice up, I don't know. However you want to cut it. It needs to be in bite-ish sized pieces. Half of a head of cabbage. Then you dice up 1 medium yellow onion. Now we are going to add the corned beef broth juice that the corned beef was cooked in. Generally, I get somewhere between 3 and 4 cups, and that's close enough. And then you're going to add 2 cups of water and then 2 beef bouillon cubes, and that is the only seasoning you're going to add to it. That corned beef broth is going to be super salty, so like no seasoning is going to be required. After you get your broth and water and bouillon added, you're going to add your corned beef. You're just going to chunk that up into bite-sized pieces, and I usually try to get between 3 and 4 cups of that as well. It's not an exact measurement, and if you got a little extra, might as well just throw it in. No point in keeping like an extra 3 bites of corned beef instead of just throwing it in the stew. So this is usually what I do to use up any leftovers that we have of corned beef. You'll just throw that on the stove and cook it until the potatoes are soft and everything is heated through. It should take about 15 to 20 minutes. All right, next up we are going to make corned beef chowder. This is almost like a potato soup with corned beef in it. So the first thing we're going to do is peel and dice 5, medium-sized, large potatoes. Okay, once you chop what seems like 5 million potatoes, you're gonna throw in 1 stick of butter, that's half a cup, and 1 bag, I think it's 12 ounces of corn. You can add a little bit less if you don't want to add that much. My husband thinks that chowder needs corn in it, which I like it. I like it with the corn. It gives it a nice little sweet bite to a lot of savory and creamy and delicious. Anyways, and then after the corn, you're gonna finely, very, very finely dice 1 jalapeno. It doesn't really make it spicy, but it does give it a little bit of umph. Like it cuts that, I don't know, like the sweet from the cream a little bit. So I like to put 1 jalapeno in it. It doesn't make it spicy. It just adds a little something. I don't know what the something is. Then you are just going to dice up 1 medium yellow onion. Throw that in the pot too. And then you are going to peel and slice 3 carrots. Okay, so I added 6 cups of milk to this, and then I just went and put it over on the stove on medium-high heat just so it would start boiling. While I was waiting for it to start boiling, I chopped up 4 cups of corned beef. Then I go back over to the stove and add the corned beef. Then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of salt, as well as half of a teaspoon of paprika and half of a teaspoon of dried thyme. Once the potatoes are cooking and everything is soft, it's time to thicken our chowder. You want to wait until everything's done cooking so that you don't scorch your milk. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 1 pint or 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. I'm going to mix those together in a separate container and then add them into the chowder. Then you're just going to bring that back up to a simmer and it should start to thicken. It'll take about 3 to 5 minutes and then you're ready to eat. Okay, I saved the best for last. This is my favorite corned beef leftover recipe. So we're gonna just call this like Reuben nachos. I don't know, but you cover a sheet pan with potatoes. You're going to slice them really thin like chips. It'll probably take about 4 medium potatoes. And you're just going to spread those out over a sheet pan, drizzle them with olive oil, salt, and garlic powder. And then you're going to throw them into a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes until they start to get crispy. Okay, so I just chopped up a whole corned beef, and once my potatoes are done baking, I'm going to sprinkle that corned beef over the top of the potatoes, and then I'm going to cover that in a layer of my quick kraut, and then I'm gonna put down a layer of Swiss cheese. Just cover the whole thing in Swiss cheese. A recommendation that I just realized while I was watching this. Grease your pan before you put your potatoes down. I know I oiled my potatoes, but they will remove easier from the pan if you have it greased. So, note to the wise. Not to Erica, apparently. Grease your pan first. Anyways, and then you're just going to pop that back in the oven at 400 degrees until all the cheese is nice and melty. And you're good to go. I will say that you serve this with a Thousand Island dressing on the top. I do not like that, like I said earlier. So everyone else in my family ate it with Thousand Island on top. I did not, because I don't like it. So that is just a note. All right, y'all. That is all I have for you today. Hopefully this gave you some really good ideas of how to use up that extra corned beef. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.